All right, let's talk about Jungian psychology. Now, it's not that Jung invented psychology, but he wrote and produced so much about it that it basically became his own brand. It is people after him who distilled, codified, and summarized the topics that he wrote about. So, let's talk about the self, the ego, the persona, and the shadow. We could see a self as like the architect and builder of the psyche. It's like the dynamic structures of the psychic existence. If you want to talk in economic business terms, you could see it as the company of the psyche. Now, the ego is the center of consciousness, including what is bad and rotten. It's your habits, it's your patterns, it's your beliefs. Now, although they go a lot deeper than that, we remain superficial in this very short video. Now, if you want to compare the ego with economics, we could see the ego as the executive of the psyche. It's like the ego self-axis becomes your personality. It's like your perception as well. The persona is the mask of the ego. It's like we hope to be accepted. We're very social creatures, and not to be accepted can mean sudden death, outcast, whatever. Now, the persona is basically your public relations department. So, to summarize, we have the self, which is the company of the psyche. We have the ego, which is the executive of the company. And we have the persona, which is responsible for your public relationships with other people. Now, let's talk about the shadow. It's a very mystical and difficult topic because there's no clear definition. It's more like a galactic subject. So, for example, the shadow is the disowned sub-personality. It's like also the instinct, the survivor, the killer. It's hard to put in words. It is also your drive, your flame, your lust. One could even say it like it's raw, erotic energy inside of you. It's responsible for things like violence and sex, things we don't like to think about, but that are very dominant in the perception of reality. It's your protector against enemies and predators. It's also an evil part, it makes you able to perceive evil, strangers, enemies, foes. It is how you view stuff and how you keep alive. Now, it's also a protector against strange diseases. For example, xenophobia is my tribe is good, everything outside is bad. And that has several reasons, not only because humans are very violent and deceptive monkeys, but also if a lot of people have been exterminated because of external diseases. Xenophobes are basically people who say like, no, this is the border, this is you, this is us. Now, the problem with the shadow is that it has a lot more energy than you expect. It's basically also your lust for life. And this energy, if repressed for too long, starts to rot. And then a lot of people, and in strict societies, the shadow is very, very pissed. And if you do not recognize it, it will sabotage you, and it will sabotage you more, and it will ruin your life. Psyche likes to make deals, so does the shadow. For example, if you're an alcoholic, well, first of all, you have to quit cold turkey, but after a period, you can start making deals with the shadow. For example, we're going out with friends and you can have 3 drinks and then stop. It's like a deal that you make, which is what normal people do, what normal, healthy people. It's what healthy, normal people do. Now, the shadow is also very good in scapegoating and projection. It's also responsible for your paranoia. But once again, all of these things are survival mechanisms, so don't be too angry because the shadow is what keeps you alive. Yeah, the shadow also is responsible for attachment, and as I said before, xenophobia. This is not the easiest topic to talk about, let me tell you this. Now, Jung, for example, defined an archetype, which is a very important word, which is going to come back a lot. It's like the psychic seeds in the garden of your psyche, which grow and develop with you. And in the debate of nurture versus nature, you can say that, for example, mother is an archetype. It's the first and the primal relationship that you establish. So like mother is good, nurturing and caring. And you basically are dependent of mother. It's like little chicks, you know, cheep, 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 running behind mother duck. It's the archetype of the mother. Just like the mother has the child archetype in her, like this is my child, this is my offspring. I have to protect this and I have to die for it if necessary. Now, archetypes are similar in all of us. It's like a collective thing. You could also call them innate response mechanisms. Like, for example, fingers, you know. Everybody has different fingerprints, but we all have 5 fingers. You could compare that with an archetype. We can also talk about behavior. Now, every animal has its own repertoire of evolutionary behaviors. You know, for example, a baby will suckle. It will know how to suckle innate, just like a little duckling will know follow mother, or they die, because ducklings who did not do that very well, they just died off. So behavior is partly built in the central nervous system, which is the limbic system. Now, therapy could be like social biology. It's like psychobiological response patterns. Therefore, CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, is a way to kind of adjust all of the previous things that we talked about. Well, first of all, it's to make you aware and to make you observe the things that we're talking about. And then you have like dialectical behavior therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy to make you kind of bend those things, those structures in your side a bit to the left or a bit to the right, depending what is necessary, you know, what is necessary of the patient itself. Now, what is the psyche? Because you have a body and a psyche. You have your mental part, emotional part, physical part. I would even dare to argue that the psyche is the overlapping of everything, and the body is only a part of the psyche. So you have the spirit and the matter, or your body, who together form the psyche. One last thing about the shadow. So the shadow is also very related to suppressed feelings, repressed emotions. And if the rod stacks for too long, you start to become self-destructive, self-sabotaging. There's like self-loathing and self-hatred. You can see it all around. For example, go to prisons or go to brothels, whatever. Now the shadow is related to guilt, feelings of guilt, unworthiness, and rejection. But in case for those people, the good news is the shadow is also your way of redemption, because the raw erotic energy, the kinetic energy, you can unleash by recognizing your shadow will set you free. Okay, we will have to do this again in later versions, because this is a very complicated and complex topic. Anyway, we did what we had to do, so peace out.